Satella, Witch of Envy. 400 years before the main story begins, one being came closer to ending the world than anything before or since. That being was Satella. She didn't just become powerful. She consumed the other witches whole, absorbed their authorities, and brought civilization to its knees. But what makes her truly unsettling isn't the scale of that destruction. It's the contradiction living inside her. Satella is two people at once. There's Satella herself, quiet, tender, capable of genuine love. And then there's the Witch of Envy, a force so possessive and obsessive that separation from the one she loves becomes physically unbearable. Her authority over shadows reflects this perfectly. Those shadows don't just hurt people. They consume space, erase existence, and crush anything in their path without warning. And then there's Return by Death. Every time Subaru dies and wakes up again, that's her. She's the one holding his soul, pulling him back, forcing him to relive his worst moments over and over. Not because she wants to torture him, but because she loves him. It's a love so overwhelming, so consuming, that it traps him in an endless cycle of death just to keep him alive. Satella isn't simply the strongest witch. She's the reason the word witch became something people fear in the first place. Akidna, Witch of Greed. Where Satella destroys the world, Akidna prefers to take it apart piece by piece and study what's inside. She's calm, polite, brilliant, and completely terrifying because of it. Her sin isn't greed for money or power in any conventional sense. It's greed for knowledge, every possibility, every hidden truth, every outcome that could ever unfold. Her authority reflects that hunger, an understanding so deep it borders on omniscience. She created artificial spirits. She manipulated souls. She even built her own pocket afterlife inside the sanctuary, so her consciousness could keep existing centuries after her death. When Subaru finally meets her, she seems like an ally. She's warm, patient, and helps him make sense of his power when everything else feels impossible. It's easy to trust her. That's exactly the problem. Her warmth isn't real. It's observation wearing a kind face. She doesn't care about Subaru's pain. She finds it interesting. She was fully prepared to offer him a contract that would have him dying endlessly, just so she could harvest the knowledge from each experience. She would have let that go on forever without a second thought. Akidna doesn't hurt people out of malice. She hurts them because, to her, they're fascinating subjects, and that somehow makes it worse. Minerva, Witch of Wrath. You'd expect the Witch of Wrath to be someone who loves destruction. Minerva is the opposite. She despises violence. She can't stand the sight of suffering. The moment someone gets hurt around her, every instinct she has screams at her to fix it, and her authority lets her do exactly that. Shattered bones, destroyed organs, wounds that should be fatal. She can reverse all of it instantly. But the world doesn't give anything away for free. Every time Minerva heals someone, the life she restores has to come from somewhere. Someone, somewhere else, dies. She has no control over who. She never knows their name. She only knows that her kindness always has a cost, and someone always pays it. That's what she has to live with. She punches people when she heals them, cries constantly, and carries a grief that never fully leaves her. She wants nothing more than to ease suffering, and yet every act of compassion quietly creates more of it somewhere beyond her reach. Minerva is what happens when good intentions aren't enough, when the desire to help becomes its own kind of tragedy. Sekhmet, Witch of Sloth. Sekhmet might be the second most physically powerful being in existence, behind only Satella. She's defeated armies and crushed powerful enemies without breaking a sweat. She does it all without really trying. Actually, she barely moves at all. Her authority creates invisible force hands, pressure that can snap bones and destroy targets at a distance without her lifting a finger. It's overwhelming force made effortless. And yet, Sekhmet herself exists in a state of near total emotional emptiness. She's permanently exhausted, disconnected from everything around her. She acts only when the bare minimum requires it. Her sin isn't laziness exactly. It's apathy, a deep, settled indifference to almost everything. And that's what makes her dangerous. Most powerful beings are driven by something: ambition, anger, love, obsession. Sekhmet has none of that. There's nothing to reason with, nothing to appeal to. She simply exists. And if something crosses the threshold of requiring her attention, it gets dealt with and forgotten just as quickly. Daphne, Witch of Gluttony. Daphne was always hungry, not occasionally, not after skipping meals, always. A hunger that never quieted, no matter how much she consumed, so she tried to solve it, for herself and for everyone else. She created the three great May beasts, the white whale, the black serpent, and the great rabbit, intending them to be infinite, self-sustaining food sources that could end hunger across the world. The intention wasn't cruelty. It was, in her mind, practical compassion. What she actually created were three of the most destructive creatures in history. They didn't feed people. They devoured everything in their path, multiplied without limit, and left devastation wherever they spread. Her authority is the power to create life built specifically to consume, and she herself is contained inside a coffin-like device because, without it, her own hunger would do the same thing her creations do: consume everything within reach. Daphne represents something genuinely tragic, desire that can never be filled, and a solution that only made the emptiness larger. Carmilla, Witch of Lust. At first glance, Carmilla seems like the least threatening witch. She's soft-spoken, fragile, almost painfully shy. Then you understand what she can actually do. Her authority distorts perception in one of the most intimate ways possible. Anyone who looks directly at her sees the person they love most in the world. Their defenses collapse. Their emotions take over entirely. They simply cannot bring themselves to harm her because their mind has replaced her face with someone irreplaceable to them. And beyond that, she can stop hearts. Not through any physical attack, but through emotional shock alone. Her power works on the soul before it ever reaches the body. Despite all of this, Carmilla doesn't want to hurt anyone. She's uncomfortable with her own existence, aware of how dangerous she is, and deeply afraid of being unloved despite, or maybe because of, having a power rooted entirely in love. She's the embodiment of emotional dependence, the desperate need to be cherished, and the terror of what happens when that need goes unmet. Typhon, Witch of Pride. Typhon looks like a child. She acts like one too. Curious, direct, unbothered by the weight of the world. But her judgment is absolute. Her authority is deceptively simple. If someone believes they are guilty, their body breaks apart. Bones fracture. Limbs separate. They shatter from the inside out. She doesn't investigate. She doesn't weigh evidence or listen to explanations. The moment guilt exists within a person, her power responds to it automatically. The terrifying part is that almost no one is without guilt. Regret, shame, the memory of a choice you wish you could take back. That's all it takes. Typhon doesn't need you to have done something monstrous. She only needs you to believe somewhere deep down that you did something wrong. She sees the world in two categories, guilty and innocent, with nothing in between. And she enforces that divide with the casual certainty of someone who has never had to question whether her judgment could be wrong. Pandora, Witch of Vainglory. Pandora doesn't feel like a witch in the traditional sense. She's composed, gracious, and speaks with a kind of serene patience that makes her seem almost harmless. Her authority doesn't operate through force or manipulation the way the others do. She simply rewrites what has already happened. An attack lands, and then she decides it didn't. Someone dies, and she reverses it. A plan succeeds, and she undoes it at her convenience. She doesn't need to overpower her enemies. She just needs to outlast them long enough to decide that whatever happened wasn't real. Pandora is responsible for some of the darkest events tied to Emilia's past, working from the shadows in ways that are nearly impossible to trace or counter. Her goals remain unclear, which makes her even harder to reckon with. Because with an ability like hers, she doesn't need a plan that can't fail. She only needs the patience to keep going until she decides she's already won. Hector, Warlock of Melancholy. Hector isn't classified as a witch, but the distinction barely matters in practice. His authority generates a crushing, invisible pressure that radiates outward from him constantly. The air grows heavy. Movement becomes a struggle. Bodies fold under the weight of something they can't see or fight against. He has brought down powerful opponents without visible effort. What sets him apart from the witches isn't his power, it's his effect. Where the witches are defined by overwhelming emotion, Hector is defined by the absence of it. He doesn't rage or mourn or obsess. He simply exists in a state of flat, settled despair, as though the weight his authority imposes on the world around him is just an extension of something he's carried so long he no longer notices it. He represents the kind of hopelessness that doesn't scream or break things. It just settles in quietly and makes everything feel impossibly heavy. Thanks for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment down below if I missed anything.